Hey guys, my name's Josh, and we're gonna be talking about in this module about getting back to the basics. Now, everything worth doing has some sort of fundamentals that are worth getting back to when you talk about getting back to the basics. Take, for example, if you play sports, you're playing basketball, you're playing soccer, there are a set of fundamental rules, fundamental things that you learn right at the beginning. So that way you can always go back to those things and you have them as your basics. For me, I'm a filmmaker. I make videos, and the number one thing that I had to learn was about composition. I had to learn about how to expose things correctly, and I know exactly how to do those things just right. I changed my ISO, I changed my shutter speed, I changed my aperture, but those things, when I change them, expose my image just right, and that's what's considered a basic for my field. See, as Christians, we have fundamentals as well when it comes to our walk with Christ. It's important that we get back to those basics and make sure we understand the fundamentals of walking with God alongside a body of believers, which comes into play especially in this week's lesson when we're going to be talking about accountability. So, to define accountability, what is accountability? It's working with someone who will ask tough questions in an effort to help you grow in your spiritual disciplines and convictions. Now, obviously, the word accountability has an outside definition, a general definition, but as Christians, we follow this definition. It's an idea that people come together and you're working alongside somebody else to help you grow in your walk with God. Now, we find this fundamental, we find this key thing that we're going to try and follow in Ecclesiastes 4:9-10. It says, "Two are better than one, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up." You see, accountability is a partnership. It's an opportunity. See, you see here in Ecclesiastes where it says that if someone falls down, they have someone to help them up. There's a partnership built there. There's an opportunity for someone to come alongside you who is also walking with God to help make sure that you're also continuing to walk with God. We don't want to be in this walk alone. You see, God set up the church and He set up a body of believers intentionally to give us an opportunity, give us a potential to really come together and grow in God and grow in our walk with God alongside one another. You see, accountability has a purpose. The purpose is to lift each other up. You see, it says here in Ecclesiastes that if someone falls and they have no one to help them, then you should pity them. You see, we have this perfect setup, this purpose where we can help each other up. And there's a process built into it. The process is that we come alongside each other. It's a process of making sure that we're intentional about asking each other how we're doing in things that we need help with. Now, accountability isn't just set to, things that we're struggling with. Accountability can be in things that we want to accomplish in our walk with God. Maybe it's making sure that we're spending more time in the Word, or maybe it's making sure that we're abstaining from a sin. So that's why it's important that we have an accountability partner and we have someone who's coming alongside us so that we can call each other kindly to Christ-like living. Now, why should we have accountability? The first reason that we should have accountability is that we can live freely from sin. It's an opportunity to grow closer to God, away from sin, and to try and live a life that's pleasing to God first and foremost. The second reason is to be free from struggle. Now, when I say free from struggle, I don't mean that you're going to be free from struggling with sin. I don't mean that you're going to be free from struggling through those opportunities that you have to sin or struggling through temptation. I'm talking about free from struggle in the sense that we are not struggling alone. You see, when you're being an accountability to someone or someone's being an accountability to you, we want to do that in a way that doesn't shame the other person. We want to do it in a way that brings them closer to God, in a way that's loving and in a way that's compassionate. It's really important that we live in a way that when we're accountable to each other, we don't make the struggle more difficult when it comes to our sin. And the third reason is to be free from self-righteousness. You see, accountability gives you that opportunity to really live as a body of believers as the way that God intended it. You see, when we're going along our path, especially, I struggle with this especially. I'm working on something that I know really, really well. And I think to myself, I don't need anybody else's help. But what accountability says is it says that, yes, maybe you could try and do it in your own power, but most likely you're going to fail. And when you bring someone else alongside of you, you're saying that you're not enough for yourself, that God is enough for you, and that He has set something in place through another person to help you grow in your walk with God. It helps us be free from self-righteousness. Now, when it comes to accountability, there's the three questions: how, when, and where. So, how do we set up accountability? Well, it's really simple. All you gotta do is you gotta find somebody who's willing to keep you accountable. You need to go to a friend, someone who's walking with the Lord, someone who actively is seeking to have a correct relationship with God, and ask them for help. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to set up a meeting and have a set schedule that every day on Wednesday, or every day on Wednesday, every day at 5 o'clock, I'm gonna text this person, I'm gonna have this interaction, I'm gonna have this conversation. It doesn't mean that you have that set time. Now, you can do that, but it's important that we set up those relationships and that we interact with people who are gonna push us back to God. Now, I wanna take a special moment to really say something really important. It's important who you choose to be your accountability partner. You do not wanna go and find someone who's not actively trying to seek after the Lord. Now, I'm not saying you need to find someone who's perfect, because you're gonna be pretty hard pressed to find someone who is absolutely perfect in their walk with God. But find someone who's a couple years older than you. Find someone who's gone through the struggles that you've gone through before. But here's what you don't do. Don't go to your significant other. You should not have your girlfriend or your boyfriend be your accountability partner, especially when it comes to things like sexual sin. You don't wanna be in a place where you're asking somebody who you might be tempted with to then help you be your accountability partner. Go to somebody who's gonna keep you accountable and not let you get away with something that you really wanna get away with. And that's why it's really important to make sure that who you pick for your accountability partner is really thought through and really picked specifically to help you grow. Now, when do we set it up? I talked about this a little bit, but really, if you're a follower of Christ, you should be setting up your accountability right now. Now, this isn't something that is like, hey, if I don't set up accountability, I'm in sin. But setting up accountability sets you up for an opportunity to really seek after the Lord in the way that you should be. So when should you be seeking after accountability? It should be right now. I mean, even after you listen to this lesson, text one of your friends. I mean, we're always on our phones anymore. We're always connected. You have an opportunity to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I need help. I'm really struggling with anger. I feel like I'm always getting frustrated with my parents. I need you to ask me how I'm doing. Set it up right now. And where can we do it? Now, at the time of this recording, we're still in the midst of lockdowns, and we shouldn't be gathering together, and there's all these mandates set up. So you might say, oh, well, I can't do accountability right now. We can't go and meet at a coffee shop. I can't take my Instagram pictures and put it on my story. Really, now is not the good time to do accountability. Guys, like I said a little bit earlier, it doesn't matter if you have a meeting set up for every single day or even once a week. It's about constantly reaching out and making an opportunity to build that relationship as God has set forth before us. He gave us a body of believers that we can reach out to one another and build those relationships. So, when it comes to the 101 basics, when it comes to accountability, this is a fundamental that isn't necessarily something that's either a sin or not a sin. But it is an opportunity in a world where we have opportunities to constantly just be doing our own thing and try and isolate ourselves. Don't let yourself fall into that. Don't let yourself fall into isolation. Look for somebody who's willing to come alongside you. Look for somebody who's seeking after the Lord and offer them an opportunity to keep them accountable, but also ask them to keep you accountable so that you can continue and seek after the Lord. Because remember, first and foremost, as Christians, we have been given a mandate by Jesus Christ. It's to walk with God, serve other people, share the gospel, and make disciples. And this is part of the most important part of what God's asked to do, and that's to make disciples. This is a discipleship-making process. So don't just pass it off. This is a fundamental. Just like when you're playing basketball, learn how to dribble the ball, learn how to be accountable to another believer in Christ. See you next time.